It's Sunday morning, and we are in a study on the Passover. I'm going to try to explain some things to you this morning. We've been talking about the day that Jesus died and all of the events surrounding this. I've got this title up on the board, the Passover. Jesus dies on preparation, another name for the sixth day of the week. Preparation was what we call Friday. And there's a reason for that. That's because on Friday, or what they called preparation or the preparation, either one, preparation. If I said, when's your doctor appointment? And you said Friday, you wouldn't say the Friday necessarily, unless I wanted to know which specific Friday. I said, I hear you got a doctor's appointment sometime in May. Which Friday do you have? Well, it's the Friday of the third week. So preparation actually meant Friday. If it was a word that the Jews used simply to denote Friday. Now, the preparation day, they did three things on Friday to prepare for the Sabbath. Now, whenever you see Sabbath mentioned, if it just says Sabbath, that was a holy day to the Jews. The Sabbath was what they called, Friday was called the eve of the Sabbath. Let me show you this. Friday was called eve of the Sabbath. I'm going to talk to you slow this morning. I told Mike, I hope I don't lose you. It's very important to learn your Greek alphabet, and that's going to show you how we harmonize the Gospels. Friday was called the eve of the Sabbath. Evening comes from the word Eve. Eve has to do with the first woman. In fact, in the ancient world, what we call Christmas Eve, they called Mother Night among the pagans. Eve means the mother of all living. If you have the eve of the Sabbath, it means the mother of the Sabbath. It is what is going to produce the Sabbath. So whenever you say Eve, Christmas Eve, Friday, Saturday Eve, or Sabbath Eve, it means the mother of the Sabbath. It's going to produce the Sabbath. It's as though the baby is coming out of the womb when the Sabbath comes. Now, let me give you some other things on this. The word Sabbath, or the word preparation in the Bible, there's 5 times the word preparation is used, and this is why you need to learn your alphabet. The word preparation, let me write this on the board, P-A-R-A-S-K, wait a minute, let me write this way, I'm mixing the two. P-A-R-A, see, I'm glad that I go from English to Greek real quick without stopping thinking about it. S-K-E-U-E. Now, E. Now that looks paraskeue. That's where it's just paraskeue. That EU is pronounced U, and this last E is pronounced A. And the reason it's pronounced A is because it is spelled in the Greek P-A-R-A-S. Now remember, in the middle of a word, the S is like this. It's like an oval with a little flag on top, but on the end of a word, it's like that. It's like our S, but the hook on the bottom is smaller. Well, this is the way it is spelled in the Greek. P-A-R-A-S-K, their K looks like our K. Their P is a pi. Their A looks like our A, little a. These are the small letters right here. Memorize the small letters. It's like our alphabet, A, B, G, D. I'll go through that again. But here's the word preparation. And even word endings have everything to do with the meaning of a word in the Greek alphabet. But so does our words. And I'll go through that. Here's the word preparation. P-A-R-A-S-K-E. Here's the short E. That is pronounced like short E. Whenever you have a short E, in our language, it's like met. Now, I've given you your Greek alphabet there. Everybody got one of those? Here's a Greek alphabet. This is very important for you to learn. Your small letters is all you really need to concentrate on. The large letters are very seldom ever used. This will tell you the letter has a name, and this tells you how it's pronounced. Like the A is pronounced like A in arm. The B is like B, as in boy. The G is like ge. It's never like G, like we would say. It's like in get. But it's not J. It's always ge. And then delta is a D. Epsilon. They name their letters. Epsilon that's a short E. You notice it's got a little curve on the top. That's a short E, like eh. And then you get down to the eta. You have a Z and then an eta. The eta is like we'll spell it an E, but it's pronounced T-H-E-Y. They, it's like an A. They don't have an E that's pronounced E. They don't have one. But they do have an I, an iota that's pronounced E, or like E. Now, I'm not going to give you too much of this. I won't give you too much. Here's the word preparation. Paras, Q, that's an U, A. This is an E, this is an E. This is an E, that's the long E, this is the short E. Anytime you have, this is very important concerning the word preparation. Anytime you have this word on the end of a word, or this letter, this eta, it's always feminine in gender. So the day of preparation was the mother of the Sabbath. That's why it is necessary to have that eta on the end of the word. It's absolutely necessary. It cannot have this on the end of the word. And you get that. This is why you need to learn. You won't learn to read the Greek text. You'll learn to read it. But you won't know all the structure of the Greek. You'll be able to go through and pronounce the words, find your English word, and then right above the English, you've got the Greek word. Now, they change word endings. Sometimes you will have, and I'll show you this, you'll have an N on the end. You'll have an N on the end of a word right after the eta. Well, look at I gave you a copy of the definite articles. I gave you a copy of the definite article the. You got three articles. You have the, a, and. Those are called articles. They describe either a can mean a man. That denotes that there can be another man, but this is a particular man, but there's another man. And apple. That means there can be another apple, but when you say the within a certain perimeter, that denotes that within the perimeter of what you're talking about, that's the only one. That's called a definite article. Definite article. These are called indefinite articles. Now, every article is an adjective. Every article. the blue bird. Blue is an adjective. The is an adjective. Adjectives tell which, what kind of, and how many. How many? You could say the 12. The 12 blue birds. The 12. The would be an adjective, 12 would be an adjective, blue would be an adjective. It'd tell you which, how many, and what kind of a blue bird, or what kind of a bird. So I'm showing you the reason. I'm going to show you the reason I'm showing you this. Now, notice the definite article the. Here's all the ways you spell the. I've written this on the board many times for you. Singular, plural, masculine, feminine, neuter gender under the singular, masculine, feminine, neuter gender under the plural. Let me write it for the people that are not watching. Singular, plural, masculine, feminine, neuter, masculine, feminine, neuter under the plural. Then you've got the cases. I'm not going to try to teach you Greek, but I'm going to show you why it's necessary that you learn this, because I get a lot of flack and opposition from people who know just enough how to look up. And I'm not an authority on Greek. There's no such thing as an authority on Greek. We're all learners. And John asked me, well, why do we need Greek? The New Testament was written in the Greek 2,000 years ago. The New Testament, I get in the different texts, the codexes of the Westcott and Hort text, which is where the NIV, the RSV, the American Standard, the NEB, all these come from. That's the wrong text as far as I'm concerned. I show you that in my series on textual criticism. Then you have the Textus Receptus, which is what the interlinear, Mr. Green's interlinear Bible, and you can buy one of these interlinears. It has the Greek on the top line, and right under it's got the English. Then you have the cases. You have nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative case. Well, that gives you 24 ways to spell thee. But if you'll notice right down under that, good. You got two words, good. Good. You have the word agathos. Or you've got it, when Mr. Strong gives you a word, he gives you nominative, see that N, masculine, singular. He gives you A-G-A-T-H-O-S. He gives you A-G-A-T-H-O-S. On the end of a word, it's like that. In the middle of a word, the S is like that. Now, you say, why is all this necessary about the day Jesus died? I'm going to show you. All right. Now, notice down there, agathos, you've got 24 plus 3 more ways under the singular. That's a direct address. That's speaking. John said, come to me. That's a direct address. So you have a vocative case on agathos. Agathos, that's the word, Romans 8:28. We know that all things work together for good to them that love God. That word means beneficial. All the evil in the world, all the things that comes on us, all of it works together for our good, and we're to be thankful in everything. You also have the word kalos, which is another word, good. They took both these words and translated in the English text, G-O-O-D. Well, they're not even the same word. This is what is beautiful in the eyes of God. Unto him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. You got 27 ways to spell this. You got 27 ways to spell that. How are you going to translate that into English? You can't do that. You don't have to become a Greek scholar. Learn your Greek alphabet and you'll be able to open your interlinear Bible to the chapter and verse, because the chapter and verse in the interlinear, it's in the Greek, but it's also in the English, and the verses are in the English. And I'll show you this as we go through this. Anybody can learn this Greek alphabet, learn your small letters, and after you learn the small letters, I'll help you along the way and I'll learn with you, and nobody knows it all. No Greek professor knows all the word endings of all these anywhere. And if you'll notice, word endings are changed to change some character of the word, where it is in the sentence. to change the number, to change the gender. Word endings are changed. And we're going to get into that in the word preparation. And I have people argue that Jesus died on Wednesday, and that is ignorant. Now, and then down at the bottom, small. See small? Look at Mr. Strong will give you mikros. You see that nominative, masculine, singular? You see that word? An M. This is an M. This is an I. This is a K. This is an R. This is an O. This is an S. Isn't that what it says? There's an M. M. Here's an I. I. Here's a K. That's like our K. There's a K. Here's an R. You just knock the front leg off of our R and you get their R. Here's an R. Here's an R. Then you have an O. You have two O's. You got a short O and a long O, but this is a short O. I'm showing you this so you learn. And then you have an S. Mikros. Me, I, is iota. Mikros. What if I said microbe? Small. You already know a lot of Greek. You just don't know you know it. That's all. We know a microbe is something real small that you look at under a microscope, don't you? Under a microscope. You already know some Greek. You just don't know you know it. Our language comes from theirs. See? All right.
What's the V there?
Huh?
What's the V?
That's an N.
Oh.
Here's an N. Yeah. Under the accusative. Yeah. It looks like a V, but it's an N. That's why if you learn this, you'll learn to look these up in your interlinear, and then you get a parsing guide and you get a first-year Greek student's book, and I'll teach you how to look it up. And anybody can learn to look it up. Anybody. And you already know a lot of these words. Don't you? You just don't know. You know. And this is not hard to learn at all. And the reason, let me go on with this. Now, if you'll notice, look at the definite article and look under singular feminine. See the eta? Eta, in the nominative case, that's the N means nominative. That means the subject of the sentence or the predicate nominative. Predicate nominative is the same thing in the predicate that's equal to the subject. John is the manager. John and manager are the same thing. Manager is the predicate nominative. It's the same thing as John. And of course, the modifies manager. It's a definite article that tells which manager. Okay? It's not hard. Manager, John. Subject, predicate nominative. So, you've got the. Look at feminine. Anytime it's feminine, not only will the be one of these words if it's feminine singular, that tells you this is called a declension. When you decline, you go downward, don't you? When you decline, you're going down in the sentence. That's what you're doing. So when you find the eta, that's pronounced hey. It's got a diacritical mark above it. It's pronounced hey. Or hey. That's where it's pronounced. And when you have the diacritical mark above, see, singular masculine nominative case, it's got an O with the diacritical mark. That's an H sound. Ho. That's masculine. Neuter, nominative case, singular. So anytime you have a word, now look at, and you won't memorize all of these word endings at once. You see the, feminine, singular, singular, feminine. Let's just look at the feminine these. All the ways to spell thee. You can't translate that in English, that's for sure, can you? When Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he used the word hey. Hey is that eta with the diacritical mark there, feminine, singular. I am the way. Well, he's not a female. What he meant was, he was talking to the apostles. He said, I am the way that's in your heart, already written in you, and you're the church, my wife. That's what he's talking about. So on word endings, when you see these word endings, just like on thee, they'll carry the same gender and the same number, singular, plural, and they'll carry the same case as these. So if I come up with the word paroscuane or paroscuane, notice, hey, if I end with a hey, it's still feminine. If I end with an AS, A to S, and A to S, or if I end with an eta, I don't want to get in complex. That third eta down the line has got a little mark over it like this. That is an accent. Let's don't get into the accents, okay? That's an accent, but if you find an A to S, it's going to be feminine. You don't even have to worry about that. On the end of the word, if you have an A to S or an eta on the end of the word, it's a feminine word. So when you see, and if you find A to new, or A to N, here's an N, and you find an A to N, it's still feminine. So those word endings, when you learn to look this up, and you look something up and find out whether it's masculine, but you don't have to look that up yourself. I've got something that is unbelievably easy. I got a set of books at home that's got every word in the New Testament already parsed. You can get any number of books. All you have to do is open up to Luke 24 and 20 or 21, and there's every word in the verse already, and right above it, it's got the part of speech.
Is that the parsing guide?
Well, it is to a degree, but parsing guide is even more difficult than this. All you got to do is look up your verse and your word. It'll give you the part of speech. It's a pronoun, nominative, plural, present tense, not PRS. Oh, pronoun, nominative, plural. Here's a conjunction. This is a verb. We have sets of books that can do this. This one, you don't want to buy this. This is about $400 or $500 if you can find it. But you've got others. Huh? No, yeah, I believe they've got some that are. If I want to look up Luke, I just go to my Luke volume, pull it out, flip it open, go to the verse. There it is. It's parsed already right in front of my eyes. This is called the Complete Biblical Library. Not now. I'm preaching. I may need it for it. I can get it back. Does everybody want to stop and look at it for a minute? All right. Now, you say, what's the use of all of that? I'm going to show you. All right. Now, paroscune, that's the whole point. The point is, paroscune is feminine gender. And you'll find that sometimes that word preparation, and I'm going slow with you. Sometimes you'll find it ending in eta, sometimes eta nu, A-N. But it's feminine either way. Now what I'm going to do, I've got a fellow that's writing to me, fighting me about Jesus being crucified on Friday. I'm going to show you something about definite articles and how you need to blend and harmonize the Gospels. I don't mean it, well, I guess I do mean it as an insult. This guy, I don't know which is worse, his arrogance, his utter arrogance, his ignorance, or his seething pride. He wants to prove a point, and he knows enough about how to look things up to be dangerous. Watch out what you look at on the internet, and he goes to the internet and he thinks he can find somebody to help him prove that Jim Brown don't know what he's talking about. I'm just appalled at he sends me letters every week like, let me correct you. You don't know what you're doing. Wait a minute, I got... Oh, here it is, over here. All right. I want to show you. We've got 5 times this word is mentioned. Let me just give you some things about this. The Sabbath was celebrated. The Sabbath was celebrated. They said they worked 6 days, and the Sabbath was celebrated as a feminine queen or bride every week after working 6 days. The Sabbath is also a feminine person. They called the days of the week feminine. Preparation was a day, not an action. It was things they did on that day. But when you see the word paraskue, it is a term that was used for Friday before Saturday. Well, I'll read the rest of this to you later. All right, now, I'm going to read to you what this guy says so I can show you. Watch out for the ignorance of people. He writes me a letter and says, writes me an email. And I'm not trying to just give him a hard time. I'm trying to show you the importance of learning your alphabet. So you can take your interlinear Bible and look it up yourself. He says, in Sovereign Grace Publishers, the interlinear Bible, Hebrew, Greek word, Hebrew, English, Greek, the word ho, for some reason he thinks ho is the only definite article in, he implies that a couple of times. He thinks that ho, that's the first letter up there in the left-hand corner, nominative, masculine, singular. He thinks that's the only word for thee. I think you got 23 other words, don't you? Yeah. He says the word ho, thee, does not appear in the text of Mark 15:42. Let's go there. I want to show you why it's important to balance and harmonize the Gospels. Mark 15. I've been saying that Jesus died on the Passover. Or he died on the Friday before the Sabbath. And that Friday before the Sabbath was the Passover. And in Mark 15... verse 42. Now he says in this interlinear Bible and also in George Rickerberry's that thee does not appear before preparation, which denotes one preparation, and it does not appear before Sabbath. He is exactly right. But you don't have to have thee before preparation, because when you said to a Jew, paraskue or paraskue, when you said that word, it was like saying Friday. Instead of saying Friday, they didn't use Friday because Friday is F-R-E-Y-A, Freya day. Freya is the word fish, and it was associated with Venus, so the Jews are not going to talk about fish day. That's why Catholics eat fish on Friday. That was one of the goddesses of the ancient world associated with Venus. They eat fish on Friday, on Freya day or fish day. And the Jews wouldn't say fish day, a pagan term. They would say paraskue or paraskuein. And when they said paraskuein, no one had to say, it didn't even have to be the paraskuein. If a man said paraskuein, that's the same thing as like saying, in our society, saying Christmas. So what does that mean? It means exactly December the 25th, doesn't it? Yes. To say paraskuein meant that is the day they prepared for the Sabbath. And some of my Jewish writers in my library will say, yes, well, they had a preparation day for all of the feast days. Feast days. And all of the feast days were called high days. And this fellow gives me a hard time on that. And they prepared for feast days, but they did not call that preparation. It was not a proper noun like paraskue or paraskuein. We would call it a proper noun. That word paraskuein, preparation, was a term for Friday. If it's said alone and you said paraskuane or paraskue, I am going to herd the cattle in from the field. That meant the 6th day of the week, on Friday, I'm bringing the cattle in. That's what it meant. Now let's read this in verse 42. Here Jesus is dying, and this fellow is saying, now when the even was come, because it was the preparation, that is the day before the Sabbath. He says, well, the, or the word ho, is not before preparation. That's exactly right. And the is not before Sabbath. That's exactly right. But when you said paraskue out of any kind of context, and you said Sabbath, those were words. Sabbath meant, yes, every one of the feast days were Sabbaths. Or they were days of rest, but they didn't call them days of rest. They called them holy days or high holy days. And they called the weekly Sabbath Sabbath or rest. And when you said Sabbath without any particular specifications, it always meant that Saturday, or what we would call the 7th day of the week. That's what it meant. When you said paraskuane preparation. Now, let me show you why you need to learn. Let me read this fellow's letter. He says the same is true in George Rickerberry's interlinear. I know that. I've got George Rickerberry's interlinear, which he says is nearly identical to Stephen's 1550 text. The word ho, he writes it ho. I wouldn't write it ho. If he knew anything about the text, he'd write it ho, and then he'd say in parentheses ho. That's the way I'd write it, to show it's a Greek word. And I'm trying to show you, watch out who you listen to. This guy would confuse most of you if you didn't know anything. He says the word ho, let me see here, where was I? The, except in English, appears in the Greek version in Mark 15:42. That's right. The doesn't appear in Mark 15:42 in the original text. Nor does the word ho, the English article the, that's not the only English article the. That would confuse you if you didn't have this, wouldn't it? Ho is not the only English article the. There's 23 other English definite articles, isn't there? Huh? You see what I'm saying? There's 23 others. So he's trying to attack me by saying, this guy is an ignoramus. And you know what? He's real smart. He's run businesses, and he thinks he knows. And I just as soon, I may call him and say, don't send me any more of your letters. They're all so stupid. Nor does the word ho, the English article the, appear in the Greek text of Luke 23:54. Let's look at it. Luke 23. See, I'm saying that Jesus died on Friday. Well, Mark 15:42 says, when the even was come, because it was preparation the day before Sabbath. If I said it was Friday, the day before Saturday, I wouldn't have to say it was the Friday, the day before the Saturday, would I? To the Jew, they would say it was preparation, it was Friday before Saturday. They didn't have to put the there, neither do we. Do we? You don't have to even have the in there. But I'm going to show you that the is actually there without being in the text. I'm going to show you that.
Jim, is it just understood, or is it...
No, I'm going to show it. No, wait, you wait. You're getting ahead of yourself. I'm going to show you that the is actually there. Okay? See, he doesn't know enough to know this. Now look here at Luke. And he's saying the word ho is not in Luke 23:54. Luke 23:54. Let's read it. 23, verse 54. All right. And that day was the preparation, and the Sabbath drew on. The is not before preparation, and the is not before Sabbath. It actually says to a Jewish mind, and that day was preparation. What it says is that day was Friday before Saturday began. That's what it says. We don't have to have thee before Friday and thee before Saturday, do we? In preparation was a term for Friday. Even though they had preparation days before feast days, they never called them the preparation. And then he makes the statement, nor does thee appear in the Greek in John before the word preparation. That's an out and out lie. It's a lie because he's trying to prove his point. It's in John. It's not in every time the word thee is in John. Let me say something to you. If you go to court and you want to set a precedent, or you want to find a precedent, what do you do? If you're in court, what you do is you go look for some other trial that has it's the same type of case as this right here. And if you can set a precedent, the judge will have to use the rules of this trial in your trial down here, won't he? The law says so. Well, if I can show you somewhere else where this particular day is referred to and thee stands before it in some fashion, one of these words, thee, that'll set the precedent that every time this day is mentioned, thee has to be there, doesn't it? Let me show you. And this is why you need to learn your Greek alphabet so you can look in the interlinear, look it up for yourself. Now this fellow did not bother to look at every place the word preparation is used, because he said the word thee is not before the word preparation in John. Remember, the feminine is hey, te, taste, and tain. Right? Well, anytime you have an adjective in the Greek, adjectives modify nouns and pronouns. Pronouns. Telling which, what kind of, or how many. Always the adjective has to carry the same gender as the noun it modifies, or the pronoun. It has to carry the same gender. Now, let me read to you the other places where this word, let me read it to you. Let me go to the first time, Matthew 27:62. The first time the word preparation is used. This is why you need to learn your Greek alphabet. We're not talking about becoming a Greek scholar, a great Greek authority. We're talking your ability to look it up for yourself. Now, if I can find a day in Matthew, which is equivalent to the same day that we're talking about in Mark, that doesn't have thee before it, and it's the same day, and it's got thee in Matthew, then it has to apply to the other places where it doesn't have thee, doesn't it? You understand what I'm saying? That's a precedent. Look here in Matthew 28 and verse 62. 27:62. And now the next day, that followed the day of preparation, that followed the day of the preparation. This is talking about there was the preparation day, and the next day the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate. Right before that, Jesus' body is given to Joseph of Arimathea, and he's buried. He dies in that chapter, right? So the next day that follows the preparation. Here is the Interlinear Bible page with that on it, and I've got it marked right here. Let me put this on the board. I'm going to do it slow so you can see what I'm saying. This is talking about the same day in Mark 15:42 where thee is not there, isn't it? It's the day Jesus died. This is the next day after the preparation. It says the in here in the English, doesn't it? Let's see if it says it in the Greek text. Here's what it says. Here's what it says. And morrow, it just says morrow, E-P-A-U-R-I-O-N. A-U-R-I-O-N. That's morrow. Morrow, which, A-T-I-S, which, morrow, which is, S-D-E-S-T-I-E-S-T-I, is, morrow which is after meta. That can be with or after. Meta, after, and it could mean with because the preparation day is with the Sabbath. It's never separated from it. The preparation is always with it. And it says meta, this is exactly what it says in the Greek text. Meta, let me just go ahead and put this on the board. Yes. Okay. E-U-E-N. It says, now what is that right there? It's the, and this is the same day that Mark 15:22 is talking about, isn't it? It's the same exact day, the day after. This is the day before, the day after the preparation. And the word preparation ends with A-N. Remember here on your the, A-N, on the end of a word, that's accusative voice. This means this is accusative voice. That's the direct object. That's the direct object. And it is feminine gender. You can't find ho in there, but you can find tain in there. And they're the same word. One is feminine. It's in a different part of the sentence. It depends on where it is as to how that they construct the sentence or how they construct the word. You see what I'm saying? Does that matter? Yes. Matters completely. But you can't say, because I can't find ho in one of these others, we've set a precedent that the same day, which was the day after the preparation, they came to Pilate and said, we need to make this sure as we can, this tomb, so his apostles don't steal his body away. Are y'all following me on this? Thank you. You need to learn your alphabet. Is this important?
Yes.
When somebody tells you, and how are you going to balance and harmonize the Gospels when somebody says, thee is not in Mark 15:42? Yes, but over here in Matthew 27 and 62, it's talking about the same day, and it calls it the preparation. But you don't have to have thee there. As far as the Jews concerned, if they said paraskuane, it meant Friday, the sixth day of the week. I hope you can see that. Can you? So we've set a precedent where even though thee is not here, it's over here. Same day.
It's the same event.
Same event, that's right. Oh, let me give you a couple other places. Let me show you. You're going to have to learn it's not hard to learn the alphabet. You'll be able to read the Greek text. You might not be able to understand all the words, but you'll recognize a lot of them from what we've said. And when you learn it, you'll be able to look at the words, the English words. All you got to do is find the English word in your interlinear and look at the word right above it, and the Greek word will be right above the English word. And you'll be able to tell. And I'm not even interested in what the English words are in the interlinear, because a lot of times they're wrong on that. You understand what I'm saying? I'm never interested in the English. I'll try to explain it to you in English. But I'm not interested in that. Now, look here at, where shall we go? Look here at a couple other places. You're going to have to learn to do this. I gave you Matthew and Mark. Did I give you Matthew? Yeah. I gave you Mark. Did I give you Luke's? I gave you Luke. Let's go to John. Let's go to John. Okay, John 19. John 19, verse 14. Now, he come up, this guy, he's very ignorant. He knows just enough to be real dangerous. Why don't you quit emailing me? He's supposed to be my friend. He's supposed to be an occasional guy that comes here and he wants to be smart. He's just not. He's very ignorant. If you talk to him about business, he seems real smart and he uses lots of words. He thinks he can go on the internet. Let me say this to you, and you need to learn this studying. He thinks he can go on the internet and find some Jewish scholar and back up what he's saying. He can't even exegete what I am saying off my tapes correctly. Why am I going to believe him when he says, this scholar says this? And besides that, you can go find 10 different Hebrew scholars and get 10 different opinions on certain things. You have to match. You have to go through and scan these so-called scholars. Find out the one that matches the Scripture. This fellow doesn't know any Bible to speak of. He thinks he knows. He can go in here and go to internet theologians and pull things out. You can't do that. I don't know if he can hear or not. He argued with him about predestination for about 4 or 5 years and then finally kind of accepted it to a good degree. And I don't know if he really believes it. He might. He wants to be important in somebody and prove his point instead of really finding out what this is about. Now look here. Look here in John 19. John 19. John 19 and verse 14. And it was the preparation of the Passover about the 6th hour, and he saith unto the Jews, behold your king. Well, this is the day Jesus is dying, isn't he? Let me show you what you're going to have to learn to do. If you don't stop and think and evaluate these things slowly, I'm going slow with you this morning so you can learn to understand. I'm going to show you what everybody says about this verse right here. It says it's the preparation of the Passover, doesn't it? Wait a minute. Didn't the apostles eat the Passover the night before? Huh? Jesus is dying this day. He's dying this day on Passover. It's Nisan 14. And this verse says that this is the preparation. Jesus dies on the preparation of the Passover. Well, that sounds confusing, doesn't it? Because the night before, their day goes from 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock the next evening. Well, here it is during the day, daytime, and Jesus is dying on that day during the preparation of the Passover. But wait a minute. They ate the Passover the night before. Did they eat the Passover and then prepare it? No. Boy, this would be confusing if you didn't understand some things. You have to remember there's 3 things referred to as the Passover. You have to keep in context. They prepared the Passover on Thursday before 6 o'clock. On Thursday, that's when they prepared the Passover. And they went to Jesus and said, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee? In Matthew 26:17. Where wilt thou that we prepare to eat the Passover? And then they met that night and ate the Passover the next daylight day, which is the same day. Jesus is killed on the preparation of the Passover. But it couldn't be the preparation of the Passover day because they ate the Passover the night before. How can they be preparing the Passover after they've already eaten it? You got to remember. You got to remember Passover. There's 3 things called Passover. The lamb was called the Passover. The day, Nisan 14, was called Passover. And one of the things called Passover. The 8-day feast was called Passover. And they would say Passover without specifying which one of these it was. They expect you to have sense enough to evaluate it. If they ate the Passover the night before, Jesus can't be killed on the day. He cannot be killed on the day of preparation for the Passover. The preparation came the day before the Passover, didn't it? So therefore, it has to either be the lamb. No, he is the lamb. They ate the... He was killed as the lamb. Look here. One more time. Look at Luke 22. Don't turn away from there. I'm trying to show you how to think. Are you learning something? I hope I'm not losing you. You need to learn how to think and balance these things. All right. Luke 23. What did I say? 22. Oh, 22. Excuse me. 22. Look at Luke 22. All right. Look at verse 7. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. What are they going to kill? Nisan 14? Or are they going to kill the 8-day feast? No. They're going to kill the lamb. They expect you to understand that the lamb was called the Passover. But I think we do that in our society too, don't we? We do that. If I said the third Thursday in November, what am I saying? I'm saying Thanksgiving. We do the same thing. Or if I said Thanksgiving, it's the third Thursday in November. November, isn't it? I'm supposed to know that. But I don't celebrate it, so I shouldn't. All right. What he's saying here, let's go back over here to where we were. Where were we? John 19. Let's go to John 19. The only thing left is the feast. Every Passover feast started with Passover Nisan 14, and the next day, Nisan 15, was the first day of unleavened bread, and then it went through 7 days. That's through the 22nd. Every Passover feast had at least one. It had at least one preparation in it. Let me put it this way. It had at least one Friday in it, didn't it? What if I read that this way? Let's go back and read this. John 19, verse 14. And thee is not in the text. Preparation is there, but preparation was another word for Friday. Let me put it this way. It was Friday of the Passover week. It was Friday of the Passover feast. That's what it's saying. It was preparation. Paraskuane means Friday, 6th day. That was the term. So it's Friday, the day of preparation in the Passover week. There was a preparation day in the Passover week, and it was a preparation for the Sabbath. You see what I'm saying? Now let's look at 2 more times this word preparation is used. Look at same chapter, verse 31. Verse 31. All right. Verse 31. The Jews, therefore, because it was Friday preparation, thee is not in the text, but it doesn't have to be in the text. But it is there by precedent. But it doesn't have to be. Because paraskuane means Friday, 6th day of the week. They did have days of preparation for the feast days, but they weren't called official feast days.
There's 2 rules there.
Yeah. Now, the Jews, therefore, because it was preparation or the 6th day of the week, a term that they use for Friday because it was preparation. Preparation is not a verb, it's a noun. Because it was Friday. That the body should not remain upon the cross on Sabbath day. It doesn't have to say, and "the" is not in the text. When they said on Sabbath day, they meant Saturday. For that Sabbath day was an high day. Now this fellow is trying to get Jesus dead on Wednesday, and he writes to me and he says, and he heard me read this and say that if you place a high day on top of a Sabbath, it makes the Sabbath a high day. Except he didn't even exegete my words correctly. How in the world is he going to exegete? He came back to me in a letter and tried to say that I was trying to prove that the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread was a high day. You don't have to prove that the first day of unleavened bread was a high day. All feast days are high days, except the first day of unleavened bread. The last day of unleavened bread was a high day, a high holy day. But I wasn't trying to prove that the first day of unleavened bread was a high day. I was trying to prove that the Sabbath it was going to fall down on made it a high day. Let me show you what. He doesn't even know how to exegete what I am saying. He says, Beerbaum's A Book of Jewish Concepts, under his article on feasts and festivals, has the following quote. The three pilgrimage festivals, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, the high holy days known as Yamim Norim, days of awe. Pesach, which is Passover, is what we know as the Feast of Unleavened Bread, or Passover, which is the same thing. Beerbaum says this period was known as high holy days. The high day of John 19:31 is referring to the high holy day Sabbath of Nisan 15. That's right, and it's the Sabbath. What he's trying to say, well, it's all first days of unleavened bread, even if it's on a Tuesday or Wednesday, is a high holy day. I know that. It would be redundant to say in this verse that the first day of unleavened bread is a Sabbath day. That's not even what I was saying. I was saying when you place a high holy day down upon a Sabbath, it makes that Sabbath a high day. He didn't even exegete what I was saying. I hope you can see you have to learn. One more place where the word preparation is used. Same chapter. Same chapter. Now this man said that "the" is not in John before preparation. It's not in some places, but it's in this verse, just like it was over in Matthew. Look here in verse 42. There laid they Jesus, therefore, because of the Jews' preparation day. It doesn't say the Jews' preparation day in the text. It says the preparation of the Jews. Now, Jews in this text is an adverb. The reason they translated it, let me show you this. What it says in the original text is they, I hope this is not too much. Maybe I'll just get on with some simple teaching here. I want you to understand why it's necessary to learn. It's necessary for you to learn how to look up. To learn your Greek alphabet, the small letters. The small letters. That way you can look the word, you can look up. When you get your interlinear Bible, you turn over to, in the Greek, the New Testament written in the Greek. It's got John right up at the top. It's got chapter 7 right there. So you look up John, and it's got the verses right down here. You go down to the verse and see Ume teras, your, right there. Your is under it. The Greek is right above it. It's already easy enough for you to find. You got chapter heading in English. You got the title book in English. You got the numbers in English numbers. You got the English right under the actual word, and you go to the actual word, and then you go into a parsing guide. But you're going to have to learn your Greek alphabet to look up that word. You understand what I'm saying? Do you think we really need to do that?
Yes.
Are we going to accept this corrupt English text? There's no such thing as an English text that's not corrupt. First of all, you can't translate Greek into English. How are you going to translate good into G-O-O-D? How are you going to translate agathos? There's 27 ways to spell it. You say, well, what are we going to do? One guy said, you're going to look up Greek words all your life? I said, till the day I die, and then I'll leave it to you. Do I trust the translators? Not on your life. How can you trust them? They don't have a language they can translate into. Do they? Is this frustrating? Yeah. Yeah. Huh? But I'm not going to tell you Greek is hard. I'm going to tell you already know a whole lot of it, and the Greek alphabet's easy. I divide it up into sections. I'm going to do it again right now. I divide it up into these sections to make it easy for you. Like this. Here's the first section. A, B, G, D. Don't worry about your large letters. They're very seldom ever used. Your small letters, they call their letters by their names. The first letter of the name is the letter. You see? Except instead of A, B, C, D, they have A, B, G, D. Well, why did they do that? Well, they were here 2,000 years before us. Because they have a right to do what they want to do. A G looks like a little short stubby Y, and then a D. When you're going to make a D, instead of doing that, just go ahead and curl it up there. It's a D. A, B, G, D. And then you got E, Z, E. Just think of E, easy E. An easy E. Just think of an easy E. Short E, long E. Short E is like eh. Long E is like they. And then you have EZ, that's a Z. If you take this Z and you turn it around, you've nearly got a Z, right? And it's pronounced DZ when you say sozo. S-O-Z-O, the Z is pronounced DZ. You hear me say saved? Sozo, it's pronounced that way. Okay, easy-E. And easy-E, that's easy, isn't it? A-B-G-D. We get our word alphabet from their first two letters, alpha, beta. You already know it. And then you have a TH. That's one of 1, 2, 3, 4 letters that are actually one letter in the Greek, but they're 2 letters in our alphabet. It's only one letter, and you got the TH down here. That's a TH. T-H-L-I-B-O. Narrow is the way. Or T-H-L-I-B-O. All you have to do is match it up here. Now, so you got a TH. That's the first letter. That's a dual letter. It's actually one letter, but it looks like 2 in our alphabet. Then, from here down to here, if you don't know that, you're one of the stupidest people in America. If you don't know that. You have no J, no Q. Mark out your J and your Q. I, no J, K, L, M, N, X. They put their X between their N and their short O. X. They can do that if they want to. They were here first, weren't they? X. O, P, no Q, R, S. Knock the leg off our R. You got there R. S. In the middle of a word like this, on the end of the word like this. S-T-U. Okay, I-K-L-M-N-X, O-P-R-S-T-U. If you don't know that, you've been hiding in a cave somewhere. That's our alphabet, isn't it? Just remember your X. This is not an X. That's a CH. Forget that being an X. That's not an X. That's CH. That's a key. You belong to Sigma Chi, Sigma Chi. It's a key. They give you a key to wear. That's why it's called a key when you join the fraternity. It's actually a key. It's a key. So you got I looks like our I. Their K looks like our K. Their L looks like an upside down Y. I always say, take your L, pull the front leg off of it, lean it backwards and let it rest. Okay? That's a good way to remember an L, isn't it? L, M. An M looks like an upside down H with a little hook. And N looks like a V. You asked me where a V was a while ago. There it is. It's an N. It's called a nu. It's called a nu. And then an X. We say, Kazinos. Think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you. X-E, I don't know if it's a short E or long E, I'll just go ahead. N-O-S. X-E-N-O-S. Strange means an occasional guest. O-P, looks like pi, it is, but it's a P in the Greek. R-S. T-U. Then a phi, that's P-H-I-P-H-I-L-E-O, phileo. So one of the words that's been translated to love, it means affection or to like something. It's not agape. And then you have a key, C-H-R-I-S-T-O-S, Christos, Christ. And you have a psee, P-S-E-E. It's pronounced psee. It's a P-S, P-S-U-C-H-I-K-O-S. The natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God. And then you got an omega. That's a long O. It's like O. This is a short O. This is a long O. This is a short E. This is a long E. Here's your four two English letters. That's one in the Greek. And all of this is our alphabet right there. And this is our alphabet right here. That's not hard, is it? That's like falling off a log. And I gave it to you right here, and all you got to do is take it with you and put it on a card. Just stick it to a card and memorize it. And that way you'll be able to look this stuff up, won't you? Have I lost you?
No.
I'm asking you because I don't want to lose you. I want you to understand. And don't say, Jim, that's awful hard. No, it's not. Any fifth grader. How many Greek words do you know?
60.
60. He knows 60 Greek words.
That's great.
Took a little pride in them, did you? I told her one day, I said, tell Ryan you'll take him out to Chuck E. Cheese or something for every 5 Greek words he learns. He started learning. Give him a reason to learn. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And she started doing that, and she'll tell you how she did it. And he's learned 60 Greek words more than most people know here. And their definitions.
It's broke me, but...
Huh?
It's broke me, but...
It's broke you. It's not something people can't do. All right, let me give you one other thing. How much time do I have? I hope this will help some of you. Let me give you one other thing this fellow said to me, and I don't mean to just ride his case. I wish he'd learned something. I didn't give you the last preparation. Let me give you this. Verse 42, chapter 19, John. There laid they Jesus because of the Jews' preparation day. It actually says the preparation. It says tain. P-A... Well, hold on. Let me write it down. P-A-R-A. P-A-R-A-S-E-U-E-N. Parasuain. S-K-U, excuse me. Paraskuain. Remember A-N? Always. Remember thee on your chart? Now the guy said, well, it's not in John. Yes, it is. He said, thee is not in John. And this refers to, look at that. Therefore laid they Jesus, therefore, because of the Jews' preparation. Except it doesn't say the Jews. It says the, tain, feminine gender. It is the mother of the Sabbath, isn't it? And the word ending is the same on paraskuain as it is on thee. You have to have the same word endings on your adjectives that you got on your nouns. It has to carry the same gender. Feminine thee, promiscuous. Ho is not there because ho is masculine. And promiscuous is not masculine. It's the mother. It's the eve of the Sabbath. Let me give you that. Go over here to Genesis, the 3rd chapter. Whenever you hear Arnold Murray say there were people here before there was a race of people called the Kenites, kind of stupid. The Kenites were descendants of Abraham through Keturah, Abraham's second wife. They weren't a pre-Adamic race of people. I don't know where in the world Arnold Murray comes up with his foolishness. Look here. And he says there's a race of people here, and Cain married his sister. They were all marrying their brothers and sisters before the bloodlines were corrupt back then. God said, marry within Israel. That's a family, isn't it? That's Jacob's name's changed to Israel. Marry your sister. Marry believers. Don't marry unbelievers. That's what they did back then. Huh? Keep it in the family. And we are a family, aren't we? My brothers and sisters are those who do the will of the Father. Huh? Yes, they were. No, it wasn't considered incest back then. They were in the same family. They were all in Israel. We call it incest, but they didn't. The bloodlines weren't polluted back then. I mean, didn't Jacob go and marry his second cousin? It's exactly who he married. And Abraham's wife, Sarah, was his brother's daughter. Yeah, they married their brothers and sisters. That's who Cain married. Cain didn't marry somebody from a pre-race because, look here, when you're studying the mother of the Sabbath or the eve of the Sabbath or Christmas Eve, it means Christmas mother. What births? The mother's the one that births the child. So Friday Eve, which is this Parascuane, that was also called the eve of the Sabbath. It was also called the day of light. That's where they lit the candles. Look here. Look at verse 20. Chapter 3, Genesis. And Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. The word Eve is the word Chavah, C-H-A-V-V-A-H. The word Eve means life giver. And when they translated this into the Septuagint, they translated it Z-O-E, which is life. Eve means life. And the word mother there is the word M-E-M. It means the bond of the family, what holds the family together. What held the rest of the week to the Sabbath was the mother or the eve of the Sabbath. And they call that day properly preparation. Without a thee, it can have a thee or it don't need a thee. But when it has a thee, and every one of these, look back over here. Let me show you this. Go back to the verse we was looking at in John 19. It says, they laid, verse 42, I hadn't covered much territory, but when you get into these intricate details of the text, you can't cover this fast. Do you see that? Huh? You can't do it. I wish this fellow wouldn't write me any more letters. I thought he was my friend. He writes me like I'm stupid and ignoramus and like I don't have good sense, and he pulls something out and says, thee is ho, and it's not there in the text. Yes, it is. It's tain. It's not ho, it's tain. It's feminine gender. I mean, why don't you keep your emails to yourself and be my friend and be quiet and learn something? Jesus died on the preparation, or he died on preparation on Friday. You don't have to say the Friday before Saturday. You say Friday before Saturday, don't you? And preparation was a term for Friday. Yes, and a part is the whole. And boy, he hates that too. He hates that. I don't know what he does with Jesus resurrecting the third day. I'll show you something about that in a minute. There they lay Jesus, therefore, because of the Jews' preparation day. It actually says in the Greek text, the preparation of the Jews. Of the Jews is genitive case. Genitive means possessive. You say, boy, that's so hard. No, it's not. If I said, Jim Brown, there's a whole lot of Jim Browns in America. I used to look them up when I traveled in music. There's a whole bunch of them. There's 139 back in 1960-something in Houston. 139 Jim Browns, not even the James Browns or the J Browns. I just look at them and see how many there were. Such a common name, I'd say, I hate my name. I wish somebody would name me Sylvester or Constantine or something besides Jim Brown. Now everybody calls me that Jim Brown. They think that is my first name. That Jim Brown. I got a T-shirt that says that Jim Brown on the back of it. Says cult leader on the front. Most of y'all have seen it. All right. But if I said Jim Brown, that would really help, wouldn't it? To denote which Jim Brown it is. If you say that Jim Brown, they know exactly who you're talking about at Hendersonville. But if I said Jim Brown of Hendersonville, in some fashion, genitive means possessive. Genitive means possessive. I won't spell out genitive. Possessive, I won't spell out possessive. It means, in some fashion, Hendersonville possesses me. I live here. I preach here. I preach predestination here. Boy, does it ever possess me, and I'll possess it. But of Hendersonville is possessive. That's what that would mean. We would call that a prepositional phrase. They call it genitive case. Now, when he says, of the Jews, that's the way it needs to be. Of the Jews is genitive case, but it's an adverb. So the reason they put, and it says, well, let me see here what I want to give you. Excuse me, it's an adjective. It's an adjective. Jews' preparation. The Jews' preparation. The is in the text. The is in the text. He said it's not in John. Yes, it is. It's tain. It's tain. It's the feminine gender. It's feminine gender, and look here. Tain, I can't find, here, no, wait a minute. I got it here somewhere. Tain is, I got it somewhere. I've misplaced it up here. Give me one of them. Tain. I'll give it back. Tain, there it is right there. It's singular, feminine gender. It's not ho, it's tain. Accusative voice, that's the direct object. That's what it is. So don't say that the is not in John. It is. And this is the same day. It was the Jews' preparation for the sepulchre was nigh at hand. What he's saying, the tomb is real close where we're going to bury Jesus. We've got to get him in there before Sabbath begins. And this was the preparation. The preparation. So they here, since this is the same day as the word preparation in verse 31, and thee is not in the text, and it's the same as verse 14, and thee is not in the text, then thee can necessarily be placed in either one of those texts, and that's why in the interlinear, right before the preparation, they put thee. Paraskeuen. That's why they did it. Because it belongs there. We've set a precedent that it's in other verses, haven't we? Can y'all see that? Have I lost you? As I've gone real slow through this. All I'm doing is giving you a major point of Scripture. Do I have any time? 17. Let me give you one other thing concerning preparation. Where did this come from? Go back over here to Matthew. This is the first time it's mentioned in the New Testament. If you don't know what you're talking about, please don't write to me. And this man, I don't know what's worse, his arrogance, his ignorance, or his exuding super pride. He wants to be right. He said, I believe this for 30 years. You know what you're doing.
And it's that pride that won't let him see the truth.
His pride will not let him see. And I'm just wondering if he believes God. Oh, he's fighting me every minute. But the reason I'm bringing this out is not to put him down. It's to show you, you better be prepared, because this man would have you confused out of your mind with his intellectual words. Wouldn't he? You'd ask me, no, I want you to learn to do this. I want you to learn your alphabet. So when you go into and learn to read through your interlinear Bible and pronounce the words, whether you understand which ones they are or not. And you'll be going through and say, oh, homologeo, I know that word. Oh, and prosukama, oh, I know that word. Proskuneo, I know that word. Kai, and I know that word. You see what I'm saying? Learn to read through it, even though learn to pronounce the words according to the Greek alphabet. That way you'll be able to look up something and then go to an analytical lexicon or a parsing guide. Parse means to divide up, means to break everything down into the sections where it belongs. Let me give you, what was I going to give you? Oh, look here. All right. This is the first time it's mentioned in the New Testament. Verse 62, chapter 27 of Matthew. Now the next day, that followed the day of the preparation. The is in that text. The chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that deceiver said, while he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again. And he commands them to go and make the sepulchre as sure as they can. Now, where did this preparation day start? Exodus 16. Go to Exodus 16. Exodus 16. Here it is right here. And this is the day he died on preparation, an official day, meaning before the Sabbath, or the sixth day. It goes back to Exodus 6. And don't write me anymore. Exodus 16. Don't write me. You don't know what you're doing. Your ignorance is just pulsating. Yeah, it is. It is, isn't it? He doesn't want to learn. He's trying to prove something he's been believing for 30 years. When you believe free will for 30 years, boy, it is hard to come out of it. A part is the whole without a doubt. Look here. Here's where it starts. Exodus, right here. They're coming out of Egypt. The Passover has just begun. Has just happened. Exodus, the 16th chapter, let's read verse 4. They're fixing to come out of Egypt. They're going coming out of Egypt, headed towards Sinai. Well, look at verse 1. And took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month, after their departing out of the land of Egypt. The whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness, and the children of Israel said unto them, Would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full, for ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Then said the Lord unto Moses, I will rain bread from heaven for you. This is manna. This is going to be, he's going to rain this bread 6 days a week. Sunday through Friday. What we call Sunday through Friday. The first day of the week through the sixth day of the week. What's the sixth day of the week? The preparation. And I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. And it shall come to pass that on the sixth day, Greek would be preparation, paraskuein, or paraskuein, They shall prepare. They shall prepare on the 6th day. This is where the preparation goes back to. They shall prepare that which they bring in. Let me give you the word prepare. This is where it starts. This is the preparation. It's the word kun. K-U-W-N. It means to erect or set up. And they had to set up the Sabbath by doing the 3 things, didn't they? Setting up the food, lighting the candle, paying their tithes, the 3 things, the aerubic. We've talked about that, hadn't we? And had to light the candle so the Sabbath would draw on or begin to shine. All right. And that's the word kun. It means to establish or provide or make provision for the 7th day. They shall prepare that which they bring in on the 6th day, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. Why? Because they can't work on the Sabbath. There's the first mention of preparation, and it is concerning the Sabbath. And that's why they call paraskuein the preparation. And Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel, At even then shall you know that the Lord hath brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning then shall you see the glory of the Lord, for that he heareth your murmurings against the Lord. And what are we that ye murmur against us? And Moses said, This shall be, when the Lord shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, for that the Lord heareth your murmurings when you murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against the Lord. And Moses spake unto Aaron, saying unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, Come near before the Lord, for he hath heard your murmurings. I don't have time to read all this. I'm running out of time, ain't I? Any time? Huh? Let me read down in verse 22. And it came to pass that on the 6th day, the day of preparation, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers, for one man, and all the rulers and the congregation came and told Moses, and he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said, Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which you will bake today, and seethe that you will seethe, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up till the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink. But if they laid up too much on any other day of the week, it would rot and stink, and worms would get in it. God said, You don't need any more than I supply. You be content with such things as you have. Neither was there any worm therein. And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field. 6 days shall ye gather it. But on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. And he goes on, and it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. And the Lord said unto Moses, How long refuse ye to keep my laws and my commandments and my laws? See, for that the Lord hath given you the Sabbath, therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. He gave them enough for 2 days, but don't store it up through the week. It'll turn into worms and it'll rot. Boy, we want to do that, don't we? Lay up treasures. So, got to prepare. And God says, don't try to get rich. Make a good living. Prepare today. But don't say, tomorrow I'll go into such and such a city and buy and sell and get gain. He said, if the Lord will, we say that. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. That's the day after the 6th day. Isn't it? Let me show you one other thing. Do I have, how much time? About 7 or 8 minutes? Let me show you one other thing. If you don't know these things, this is why you need to learn your Greek alphabet. Do y'all see that? Huh? You need to learn it. And most of you know, all of you know most of it already. Does a B look like a B? Does that A look like an A? Now that don't look like a G. You'll just have to remember that, but that does look like a D. That looks like an E. This don't look like an E. You'll have to figure that out. This looks like a backward Z. Once you figure it out, you can go look this up. Look a lot of this up for yourself. And if you get stumbling on something, I'll help you. And there's no such thing as a Greek expert. Everybody is students, including the best scholars in the world. Isn't that right? Now, let me give you one other thing this fellow gave me a hard time about, and you need to see this. You're not going to know it. Go over to Luke 24. He wrote me a letter, and I'm trying to show you, don't listen to internet theologians. He's been doing that, thinking he's finding something. I'm going to define this stuff, and if I can't find it, and believe me, I'm willing to change. I've changed on everything I ever believed. Christmas, predestination. I've been deprogramming everything my father ever said. My father was an ignorant country Baptist preacher and didn't know anything. People say, that's really disrespecting your father. No, that's the truth. He was ignorant. I don't mean that in a mean way. Read 3 verses, tell stories for 45 minutes, and say nothing. Now, let me show you something here. You have to know this. This fellow wrote me a letter. He don't like the idea that Jesus is resurrected the first day of the week, here in verse 1 of chapter 24 of Luke. And particularly when Jesus runs into these two guys on the road to Emmaus. And Jesus, let me see here. All right. And Jesus is talking to these two men on the road to Emmaus. And it says in verse 21, these men look at Jesus and they don't know it's Jesus, and he's resurrected from the dead on this first day of the week. It is the first day of the Sabbath. In verse 1, the word week is Sabbaton. Not going to go into that. But we trusted, verse 21, that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel, because beside all this, today is the third day since these things were done. When he started griping about the word is. This is the only time the word is translated. And it's not translated estin, E-S-T-I-N. E-S-T-I-N. That's the common word is. It's translated from the word ago. A-G-O. A-G-O. And of course, he was griping, saying, this word means to lead. This leads the third day. And then he turned around and said, the word today and the word day are not the same words. Yes, they are. It doesn't look like it in the text. This day is the word hameron. Let me write this down so you can see it. E-M-E-R-A-N. Hameron. It's got a diacritical mark there. And then the word today is the word S. Remember an S. Not on the end of a word. It's like this. S-E-M-E-R-O-N. Do those look like the same word to you? Huh? Well, they are. It's just merely that this word right here is an adverb, and this word up here is a noun. And they changed a letter in the middle of a word. They would change the O to an A, or the A to an O, keep this E, keep this M, keep this R, and place an S at the front of it. An S. What do you mean place an S at the front of something? What do you mean changing an E, an A to an O to have the same word? Well, what about man? What about mans? What about men? Huh? What do you mean change an A to an E? You still got the same word, don't you? What if I said man is singular, but it's also plural, isn't it? Yeah, man is full of sin. Does that mean one man? Well, it means man is. That means all men are full of sin, so that would be plural in that case. Or that man over there, that would be one. And man's apostrophe, and men's, what do you mean men's plural? How about men's apostrophe hearts? You wouldn't say men hearts, would you? You would say men's hearts. See, we change a word, put an S on the end of the word. They put an S on the front of a word to change the character of the word. Don't they? Those are the same words. One is an adverb. That's the word today. And it says today brings. That's another meaning. That's another meaning for ago. The word is actually not ago. It's a form of it. It's A-G-I-E, A-G, or J-A-G-E-I, or A-G-E-I. It's a form of ago. We say soon ago. He that gathereth not with me, to gather with, or to bring with. We say synagogue, S-Y-N-A-G-O-G-U-E. This just is a form of ago, which means to lead or to bring. What this says is today brings the third day. That's what it says. He won't say it leads the third day. The third day's already passed. No, it says it brings the third day. It's here. And they're talking to Jesus, and it's the third day. And he rises from the tomb the third day, not after 72 hours, not after 3 days and 3 nights. That's a term. It's an idiom. You understand what I'm saying? We've talked about this. Don't listen to some guy that says, those aren't the same word. Yes, they are. One is merely an adverb, and the other is a noun. You just change. We do the same thing. We add S's, don't we? You mean they can't add the S on the front of the word instead of the end of the word? That's ignorant to say they're not the same word. They are. You just simply form an adverb by changing some letters. And so do we. What if I said love? What is that? Is that a noun or is that a verb? It's both. I love apple pie. That's a verb. God is love. That's a noun. Am I out of time? I know I don't feel like I covered much this morning. Just a few words. Just a few words. You need to learn your Greek alphabet. I've said that to most of you. How hard is that? You think that's hard? Once you learn it, you can go over to your interlinear Bible. You can look up the words and pick up the parsing guide and look up that word alphabetically in a parsing guide, and it'll tell you if it's an adjective or a noun, and the tense, and whether it's plural or singular. And it sure would make a difference, would it? But we're talking about basic, and if you don't know what an adjective or an adverb is, I'll teach you that. That's simple as falling off a log. I hope this will help. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for your word and for truth. Cause us to continue this message. Deal with our hearts. Crush us under your hand. Lord, I pray for the sheep here that you'll give them the initiative to buckle down and study the word, because, Lord, this is what keeps people from fooling us, and this is what keeps us from being led astray. Lord, your word is not hard. You wouldn't have given it to us if it was. And Lord, I've said so many times, how hard can Greek be? Every 5-year-old in the world was speaking some form of it 2,000 years ago. Help the people to see that. Lord, we don't want to become Greek scholars. We just want to understand your word. Teach us that. We give you praise for everything in Jesus' name. Amen. Boy, I didn't get hardly anywhere today. I felt like, whew, sitting in one spot. Maybe you learned a couple of points. I hope. He wants Jesus dead on Wednesday. He's ignorant. He's proud. He's proud. He thought he figured it out 30 years ago, and he just wants to fight. A lot of people want to fight. He wants to debate, and the Bible teaches against debate.
Write him back and tell him thanks for the lemonade.
Yeah, thanks for the lemonade. I made lemonade
Tell
with
him we were all
it. Send me a lemon. Send me a lemon. I'll make lemonade with it.
Right. That's all he did.
Well,
Isn't that
and
amazing?
you know, I like the
Isn't
guy.
that amazing how God could use that?
Yeah, I like the guy, but he showed me how to teach people. Don't listen just everybody comes along. You can't do it.
Well, the sad thing is the guy's got enough intelligence to attempt.
To attempt,
study
and all
it-
he's
to
doing is
study it,
attempting.
To attempt to argue with you about something that he's not.
He doesn't
fully understand.
He doesn't even know Bible. He thinks he can go into Greek text and this is all I need without understanding Bible. I can pull me some.
He's used to doing that in other areas.
I think that's it. He thinks he's
timed
been.
his way through. But
He thinks he's been an authority, and he thinks that makes me one all over the place here, and it doesn't.
Because most people are too lazy to really research to see where his error is.
Yeah.
So they just assume, oh, this guy really knows something.
Yeah, and he would lead people astray. He'd lead people here astray if I didn't correct
Those
him.
guys stay on TV, Jim. You know what? They do the same thing.
They do the same thing.
Pretend to know something.